Right, to give you a bit of background, so I was approached by Tobias, and he's working on a game that's called Office After Hours. Essentially, it's one of those games where it's a bit of liminal spaces thing, but it's more like what was the name of the game? A Platform 8 or Platform 13 or something. Essentially, that game, Platform something, casts you in a Japanese subway station, and you just keep looping around. Essentially, when you exit on one end, you come into the same thing, same hallway, same station. But if there's something changed, then you need to return and go the other way. And if not, then you can continue straight ahead. And Tobias took this idea and added his own spin to it, where things just start to open up a bit more. And he's even telling a story of some sort. So is it a horror game? Maybe a little bit. So yeah, it's one of those games. I don't know if there a genre. Is it a PT like or something? So Office Without Coffee is definitely a horror game, indeed. Anomaly hunting games as a cool prince. Yes, that's a good. Thank you. I think you put it in much less words than me now. It's an anomaly hunting game. Yes, indeed. And you know what? Where do I have it? Because there's already a demo out there. Game Steam that I can quickly show you, hopefully. Yes, there we go. So that is the game that's on Steam right now. And the premise is that you are in the office after everything has finished for the day. Everyone is gone but your boss, who's still there working. And you can see there are already weird things happening. So this is one of the screenshots where I was not yet involved. This already looks like one of my adjustments. So again, yeah, this is essentially how the game starts off. And you can see here there are weird anomalies happening throughout the game. So that is the game. If you're interested in it, let me paste it into the chat. And is this with audio? Yes, it is. So yeah, anomaly hunting game. And there is even the demo that you can find, and it's coming soon because Tobias is hard at work right now, putting on the final touches. So I already made some paint overs. I think some I have already shared. Let me, you know what, I have some nice videos prepared. Let's see. How about this one? So this was how it looked before this office situation, and again, it should look like an office, but there are no windows for technical reasons. And this was my first attempt of a paint over there, just to guide the player to this computer. I put the desk lamp that was already there, made it a bit brighter, darkened everything a little bit more. And since one of the assets that Tobias used had this little strip here, this green part on top, I thought maybe this we could use this as the signature color of this corporation, of this company. So this is why I went for this green carpeting there in my. So yeah, this is the before and after. So in this case, not a lot happened. Then, for example, there is the executive office that started out as so. And again, it was how can we make it look more executive without breaking the bank in terms of adding new assets or something. And also here, my paint over was just put him on a rug, give there just a different lighting situation with some spots on top and this big soft light. So essentially, yeah, your boss has a slightly better office than everyone else. And again, this Endless Solutions logo there is kind of important. So this is why it's there. But then, of course, there are other things that happen. And for example, there is one weird anomaly where you're in this kind of hell situation. And Tobias liked it that it's kind of dark, but I thought it needed a bit more player guidance, and as always, how do you guide player? Usually with light sources. So a slight little fog that amplifies light here, and maybe even a light source underneath this guy so that you can really see him watching over you, and a slightly diminished sky so that it's not busy on top and the bottom of the screen. So Frank says, how does this work in practice? And of course, I like your GIFs showing the visual improvements. And Agul Prince says, seconded. Yeah, thank you so much. So you probably have seen then, this is the last one that I did. This is the infected laboratory. So again, it was a relatively crude paint over, but within just an hour or so, I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. So Frank says, how does this work in practice? They take your screenshots back and try to adjust lighting and the like to get closer to it. Exactly, that's the thing. I said I'm open for questions in terms of how to implement it. I mean, the game is made with Unity, and thanks to my playing around with Unity, I have some knowledge of how lighting and things work with Unity. The downside is, of course, I cannot talk about optimization, only that maybe we can group these lights into one big area light, that sort of thing. Or maybe yeah, we can get rid of that light and so on. But currently it works like, yeah, I'm doing the paint overs, and Tobias is just then trying to match it to what I have. And in this case, I mean, the paint over, essentially, if you try to break it down, how to implement this is when you view this before after. So my change is I changed the color of the floor so that it looks more like a laboratory. Then there is this slight fog in there, and lots of these particles. Tobias already has this dust motes particle system in there, so I figured if he just cranked it up a lot, then it looks like there are some spores floating around, and with a bit of post-processing you get these foggy light sources. The other thing is just to have a specular map there for these weird growth things. And I think most importantly is what also Tobias said, why didn't I think of this, is just have here on the walls and where there is this dirt or ooze coming out. Essentially it's just decals, and if you add these things together, nothing of that sort is much of a rocket science by itself, but it's just the addition of those little touches everywhere. And I think if you implement it like this, hopefully it shouldn't have a too big impact on performance and look just a little bit more, yeah, art directed, so to speak. Yeah, and as for the lighting, it's more greener, it's a little bit yellowish greenish. Again, my idea was that when you look at it, you want to cough and feel like I shouldn't be breathing in whatever this is. So this is usually my guidance is the wrong word. My thing that my personal guideline, what I adhere to, is try to get the most bang for the least buck out of it. And most of this means just changing the lighting and the post-processing and not adding a lot of different assets, for example. And again, this is probably what I will try to do here in this room. This is going to be, I don't exactly know where this fits into the story, but I know the backstory of this situation. And most importantly, what helps me is to understand, okay, I'm struggling with X, and what can I do to mitigate this? In this case, it was that the room needs some sort of character. And as I've said multiple times, is character means usually just giving it a certain, just being very specific with something. If you want to make an office, just a regular office situation, it will look very, uncommitted in a sense. So I would say try to think of, okay, in what time period is this, on what floor is this, which corporation's office is this, how old is this office, and the more concrete you get, the more character something gets. And the next thing is just working with look and feel, so to speak. So, hope this helps. Andrew JK says, the paint overs are great. You have a good art director / VFX soup instincts. Thank you so much. Again, this is what I do for work, is color grading and looking at colors and trying to give something a mood, a feeling, and emphasize this. And yeah, and doing paint overs is just plain fun for me, and trying to look at something and see, okay, I see there are some problems, visual problems. I mean, problems is usually a hard word, because it's just something that irks me, or where I feel maybe we could do this better, and then I just give it a shot by doing a paint over. So thank you so much. Automated unicorn is unicorning, and I will have a sip of water, and then, by the way, this is not water, this is peach juice. I tried to spice things up, and it's good, but it's a little bit too good, because I could drink 2 liters of this every day. But of course, it's sweetened and that stuff, so it's probably not the best thing to drink. Yeah, and talking about paint overs, because that is also part of this situation here. Yeah, is this paint over of this room here. So I can show you how this looked in the beginning. Let me bring it on top. So this was what I started with, and again, it was to give it a sense of it should feel cluttered. It should feel like some sort of back room or storage room, and have a foreboding feeling, so to speak. So this is why I thought, okay, let's make it just more red and everything, and let's make it a bit brighter so that you can hopefully see it a bit better what's going on here. And for me, I like colored light sources to set a mood somewhere. And for colored light sources, what is the hardest for me is to find an excuse that looks natural in the scene, because you cannot have I don't know, neon signs everywhere flashing and pulsating to make something of a certain color. So to make this here more red, I opted for here a red screen. That is, and the red exit sign, and both together they just give it this red feeling there. And there you can see there is a slight green cast, because the next room should be a bit greenish, so this is already teased there. And in a similar fashion, this room should be, or at least I feel like I wanted to have it, the dominating color in this one should be blue, because we have here some lab equipment, which I think is the intention there. And again, it should feel a bit stuffy, a bit back roomy, and a bit threatening, but not too much. And Tobias already started here by propping up these shelves there with stuff and paper strewn about. And this is another view of this scene, but I think today I will be working with this one. But it's always good to have multiple screenshots, because probably I will just use more of these assets here and just copy and paste them around. A Gold Prince says, I love everything peach flavored. My fave is peach Fanta. Too good, so good that they don't sell it anymore in the store next door. Oh, I'm so sorry. So sounds like you drank up all their supply that they had, and they said, yep, no more peach Fanta. You drank it all up. But yeah, it's incredibly tasty. Right. Okay. So how do I go about it? Different ways. Usually, as you see here, I'm in Photoshop. I try to work non-destructively. So it means I leave usually the original underneath untouched, and just do my adjustments on top. So first is that I make it here a bit brighter, that I can see something. And usually to set a scene or to make something moody is working with color and light, because with light means you have shadows that are being cast. And as soon as you have shadows, you already can work with silhouettes and that sort of thing. And this here is sorely lacking or missing. So what I see here is this shelf or tray on this stool. And there is apparently a spot coming from nowhere in particular that's lighting down here. So again, I wanted to have the same feeling like the this red This red part here, it's not a part, this red room, why did I call it part? This red room here, but just in blue. So, to start giving it a mood, like I said, I make it a bit lighter, that this is my working light. It's not going to be this bright at the end, it's just so that I can see what I'm working on. And the next thing is, where is my color balance? There it is, so I bring it up here. To make everything this a bit bluish and give it this sort of laboratory flair, I think. There is this preserve luminosity flag here when I turn it off. Usually I like with this because otherwise it makes things suddenly darker or lighter in Photoshop, which I don't like that much because when I don't want colors or the chromaticity of colors to influence the luminosity when we're talking scientifically. So I think for a indirect bounce lighting, this could work. Again, if I take out here my work light, my corrections, it has now this eerie bluish glow, which I kind of like. But again, it needs to emit from somewhere. And again, we have here what looks like there is a spot on this part here. And I also like that this, what is it, this incubator, it's hard to really to tell what kind it is. But again, I think the player needs some sort of guidance. So I make a new layer on top that I set to multiply. So whatever I draw will just turn out darker in the end. And now I use a very soft brush. Soft round, it's a very large brush, and I turn the opacity down quite a lot. So when I start drawing it, I probably should pick a different color, like so. So when I draw, things get darker. Maybe my opacity was a little bit too light. Yeah, that's better. But I've noticed that my pen pressure is not factored in. Could this be my bad? Yes. Okay, good. Now it's working. Again, I'm working with an old Wacom Intuos 4 in Windows 11, which is not supported. And to have this working, where is it? I have my... Can I see it? Where is it? My Open Tablets driver. There it is. So I had to configure it a little bit, but with that, if this is loaded in the background, I can use this as always. Right. Okay, so player guidance, which means important is that we are here, that we see this through line from we enter the room here, look at whatever is important here in this tray. It's not really important what is on the shelves or in the corners, and then we move the player to the next room that should be behind this corner. So again, this best is done by light. And I make here another layer that I set to screen or even add, and do the opposite of what I do on this first layer. So I have here one layer that is, let's call this darken, and the layer on top lighten. And with that, I just paint. I just paint what I think is important. So what is not important is, for example, here everything on top, or what's here in the corner. Maybe we have here something that behind this incubator that brightens, that bounces back off to the incubator, but also what is here is not really that important. So again, I make it a bit darker, and just by darkening it, I've already, again, it's kind of dark now. You know what? I switch on my working light here. So again, this is just the curves on top of everything that we can see better on stream. So I start with a very broad brush and then go smaller for more details. For example, there should be something of an occlusion here, where especially the corners and everything, or behind this shelf, this is usually pretty dark there, because there should be some shadow casting going on. or underneath. Again, for my paint over, I try to think, okay, how will this work in the end by using maybe lighting probes or post-processing like ambient occlusion, or when I'm doing things here like I'm doing now there on the bricks, maybe a parallax map or something. So that's how I think. Hopefully I'm trying to emulate what light sources in Unity are doing, or the post-processing there of ambient occlusion. Maybe I can turn this down a little. Clear. This should not be this intense. Okay, now I'm clearing a bit too much. And already just from painting in, when there is an assumed light source that is lighting, especially here the center part up, already we have a bit more of a mood or a guidance, as I said, or a feeling for what is important. And it also feels a little bit more realistic that way. So again, if I turn it off and on, you can see the difference. If I just bring it down just a little bit so that it's not this dark, it still works how it should be. So I will assume now that there is a light source, maybe a bluish light source coming in. So this is why I'm painting here some fake shadows there as well. Make this even a bit darker here, where the wall meets the ceiling. There we go. Wait, where are... I'm having troubles reading. Wait, were all your visual improvements only Photoshop, or were they implemented in engine? Says Cursipu. They were all Photoshop. My paint overs were all Photoshop. So this exactly, I did them exactly how I did. I mean, not all were Photoshop. The hell was all Krita. Because with Photoshop, the cool thing is that I can use, for in this example here, let's make it again a bit brighter that we can see everything. There's my curves. Bring it up. Yeah, so yeah, again, if I switch it on one by one, this is what I started with generative AI in Photoshop, and just said, make me an office wall, whatever this is, and I went with this one. Then same thing here, just darker, and again I tried to emulate what might be happening in an engine, and then just painted on lights and everything where I thought they would fall. Frank says, I'll be lurking a bit at times today. I haven't been feeling great this week. Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. I hope it's nothing serious and all good for lurking. And I hope whatever it is that you can shake it off, and that things will improve over the week. So all good. Don't worry about it. Internet hugs indeed. Nice. I couldn't tell. Maybe not the best trained eye, but still. Okay, that's nice. Thank you. And I'm sorry, welcome back, and I forgot how to pronounce your username. Aceita una poquita. Aceita, is this correct? Please correct me again. I thought Photoshop would be the hell, not Krita. Please clap. Yeah, Krita is great as long as you don't want to manipulate photos, but for painting, I've really come to enjoy Krita a lot, especially since I saw what all the brushes in Krita do. It's kind of amazing. So I think this is it here for darkening things. I mean, maybe it could be even more thorough when I make my brush a bit smaller still and paint in maybe even more shadows, but I think for the overall feeling of it, we're already having here a good idea of how it feels in terms of brightness and darkness. So I think I will leave it for now. The rest is just making things more pretty when you, again, want to show it to your client or something. So for this, again, this is the before and after, just painting in shadows. I mean, I could have been here a bit more cleaner. Again, if you want to limit your shadows, I usually use the good old lasso tool, and so I can just paint, for example, this part here of this box, or same thing here, maybe this part there of the box. Again, usually I do this at the end when I'm still not happy with how it looks, or it does not look as finished as I would want to, and then I just look into adding all these little flourishes, so to speak, so just to give it a bit more depth. Right. To make things brighter, again, I have here my lighten layer. So darken layer is set to multiply and all black, and the lighten layer will be the opposite. It's set to add or screen, and this will be, let's go with not that much white, but a medium white or a medium gray. Why not a fully white, so that I still have some headroom should I need to brighten things up especially. So let's see where should the light source be? And I think it looks like this is a spotlight in this part here. So there should be a light source up here, I feel. And since I already drew it like this, maybe it's just a fluorescent light that's hanging from the ceiling somewhere, and it's bouncing around the scene here. So, which means, again, I start with a very, very bright brush, or a big brush and a very low opacity, and have here, let's say, something like this, where there is a light source behind the corner there as well. Something like this. Again, I could do this with just doing the darkening, but I like to subtract and add light sources as well. And you can also see here that things are getting a little bit hazy. Sometimes this is what I actually want, because haze and fog gives things already much more of an atmosphere, but sometimes it makes no sense. I mean, maybe it would make sense in a building when it's very stuffy and dusty and dirty, but usually if it's a laboratory setting, you do not want this. There is filtered air and everything, so you really... Oh my god, Badger Dash, thank you so much. Hello Badger Dash, and thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subscriptions. You're so generous. Thank you so much. Let's big round of applause for Badger Dash. Thank you so much. This is wonderful of you. Cheers. This is peach juice just for you. I need to cue a music that works with this. Do I have something that is... let's find Mom and Dad. No. Need to find something that is happy and celebratory. Scroll. I have here this big list of game music that's playing here in the background. And... Oh, here with Gimmick. You know what? Let's play a Gimmick song, because they are all so happy and poppy. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Oh, Badger Dash. Oh, you. That's very generous of you. Right. So you see here my lighten makes it a bit, hazy. And if I do not want this, I can try to change here with the blending mode. So for example here, if this add is a bit too hazy, I will change here to color dodge, and making color dodge will keep it, oh, this was the wrong layer, We'll keep it as crispy or as contrasty as it is right now, but instead of making things washed out, it will just increase the saturation. So this is a bit bluer than before, but I think we can work with this. I mean, in the end, if it's too blue for me, which it might be, I can shave it off a little bit. Right, so the next thing, of course, is when I'm doing here these paint overs. Oh yeah, right now I'm using the smudge tool, this thing here, to make here my brush strokes with the shadow brush, make them a bit more softer in parts. And same thing here for the lighten. I pull it further out here so that we have here this relatively, there is no L, I want my lasso tool, relatively hard edge here. There we go. So that it really looks like there is a light source beyond this corner here. So essentially that's what I've been doing. The other thing that always helps to check if you're doing things correctly is here this navigator, this thumbnail view, because there you can see things instantly that you don't really see here, especially when it comes to light and shadow. For example, here it looks like there are two parts where my hand is now that look a little bit blobby and lighter than the rest. So for this I can do the simple, or let's say lazy way, where I go just with a big Gaussian blur over everything and see if that did it. And no, this did not do it, because it's not a problem of the light but of the shadow. No, not even that. Oh, it's a problem here with the texture. So in that case I think it's okay to leave it. Or of course I can try to get this out by painting over here a bit further, so that the light feels a little bit more seamless and soft, like that it's flooding from this side into the room. But again, we have here this, I would assume, a hanging light lamp, and from a game dev standpoint, I don't want to add new resources or new assets for the developer that they do not at this point already have. And judging from the other paint overs that I did, I've noticed that, of course, there exists something like this. For example, here, like these ceiling mounted fluorescent lamps. So for this I will just copy and paste this and see if I can make it work here as well. Paste. And yeah, as always, when I'm doing things like this, the perspective usually is way off. So sometimes I mean, when I have the time and inclination to, sometimes I even do some mock-ups or models in Maya, so that I just can get the perspective right. And oh, awesome! We have a hype chest. I've apparently got a hype chest. So thank you again, Badger Dash, for making this hype thing a thing. I've never had a hype train that worked or something. So again, I'm very, very grateful, and I hope that you're doing all right. But again, your generosity is very well received. And Nick Frost also says, thank you for the gift sub. And Andrew says, a business idea, add new assets in the paint over and also sell those assets yourself on the Unity store. Yeah, that's that's the thing. By the way, hype train, there we go. That's the thing. Usually when you want to do things like this and you feel like you're super clever, I mean, with the Unity store, there already is an asset pack for pretty much anything, and it's not even expensive. For example, I have, if you've watched my video, the last one, where I worked as one of the 100 devs there, and I explained how the post-processing volume works in Unity. I made a demo scene that should look like a very high detailed asset scene, right? And for this, I took pretty much all the resources or asset packs that I had bought at some point as part of a bundle, or when I needed something special that were free. And I pretty much found everything as part of a free asset bundle. I mean, of course, some I had to work and go in and work on the textures and that stuff. But overall, I mean, as a business idea, I mean, it was, of course, it was meant half as a joke, but yeah, I thought about it somewhat seriously and came to the conclusion, yeah, it's not worth it. Pikalik says, hello, comrade. Long time no see. Hello, Pikalik. Welcome back. Question, have you already played this fantastic game about digging a hole? It's stupid, but it's freaky fun plus addictive. The game about digging a hole. Minecraft, perhaps. Because, yes, I have tried playing it a little bit. But if it's not Minecraft, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right, so again, I want to have here this light source here as part of the scene. And right now, as you can see, it's just copied from here and pasted there and then distorted and stretched so that it maybe works here. But again, since I just plopped it in here, we don't know really where this is in terms of 3D anything. So again, do we want to have this as a hanging lamp or should this be on the ceiling? And I feel like it would be cool if it's just higher than the player's height. And okay, literally name is the name of the game is the game about digging a hole. I mean, it sounds vaguely familiar. Game about digging a hole. Let's Google this and see. Okay, I think I've seen this artwork already. Let me bring it into the view here. So the game is about digging a hole. It's a minimalist game about digging a hole in the garden of a newly purchased house. Collect resources, sell them. Oh wow, okay, it's one of those. Yeah, I totally get it now, what the addiction part of this is. It reminds me a little bit of Dome Keeper. Has any of you heard of Dome Keeper? Because it feels a little bit like this, just in 2D. But yeah, that's a pretty compelling trailer. And I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's 11,000 very positive, 90% positive reviews. This game has found its niche and I totally get it. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I have to put it on my pile of shame. By the way, I'm playing one of the games of my pile of shame, and it is the 2024 Alone in the Dark recreation. It's not so much as a remaster, it's more a reinterpretation. And it's so much better than the multiplayer game from 10 years ago. Oh my god, this was horrible, because you were neither alone nor in the dark. And of course, even better than the Ubisoft, or was it a Ubisoft? It was back then in 2008 an Atari published game. And I have the special edition with the little figurine and everything, and I felt so cheated because it's just a horrible game. And it prompted me to make my first YouTube game review. I think I've put it up on as I think as a remastered in HD at some time because it was just a horrible game. So yeah, and yeah, this remaster, this reinterpretation is very good and I like it, and I'm halfway through right now, and it feels like a little bit like a Resident Evil. But of course, it's no AAA game, but I would say it's a AA game and all good. Dome Keeper, an LD game. Yeah, you know your games, Pikalik, of course. Game multiple times affair. Is this internet slang that I'm not aware of? It probably is. So what I did right now is just painted here some shadow on top, and I'm still not sure that it reads or how I want it to be suspended. So I will just try things. And I mean, usually what I usually do is to work with references. So it's a lot of Googling things. but I will try now to do it without and just have here some sort of, maybe there is something on the ceiling, something like this, where it looks like there is a suspension. I mean, this is crudely drawn, but you get what I mean, hopefully. So, okay, to make this thing suspended, the good thing is I make this brighter still, that we all can follow what I'm trying to do, hopefully. So again, this is just our working light, so it's clipping and everything. This is understood. So I need to find a way to put this into 3D, that I can place it correctly. And the ages-old thing of doing this is just trying to suss out where the vanishing point is and drawing some helper lines and going from there. And I think this is exactly what I'm going to do right now. The good thing about this ceiling, of course, is that we have here lots of lines that I'm very, very badly drawing over. But also the wall here has, oh God, you see how long it's been since I've drawn with a stylus on this tablet. So the good thing is it shouldn't be a problem to find the vanishing point. It's just going to be very much over there. So for this, I usually start with paths. So working path. Why paths and not lines? Because a line, if it's not a shape line, just ends with the canvas. And here, of course, I need to go beyond the canvas. So I think we have here our vanishing point. Let's follow here up another line. But yeah, this looks kinda okay-ish. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just somewhere where I feel maybe I can have everything that I need to work with this. So then do we have a vanishing point upwards or downwards? I don't think so. This is just a lens correction that we have. Right. Just trying to figure out what would be the easiest way. I mean, you know what? Maybe I can use a Photoshop feature and use it outside of what it's usually intended to do. And let's make this here a group that I call just light for now. And that is vanishing point. For those who don't know, with Photoshop, there is this cool thing here that since Photoshop CS1, that was back in 2005. I know it because I needed this very bad when I was working on a project in 2005. And when I upgraded, it finally was there. So it works like this. So I'm here now on the background and I say filter vanishing point. And I can draw up here, pretty much as I did now, a grid. I mean, everything is blue now. That's a bit of a problem. But the cool thing is here when I have a grid and I can draw from it different other grids where I can say, okay, this one is rectilinear to this grid, but apparently all of my keyboard commands do not work in this special mode here. So this is why I just closed it. Right. Thank you for giving the Automated Unicorn a cookie, and Cursibu, again, thank you for reminding me to have a sip of my peach juice. Way too good to be healthy. So, my vanishing points are wrong here because I think my wall here that I drew up was not correct. It's a bit hard to follow, but if I zoom in, you can see here there is this grid overlaid on top, and all that I had to do was draw 4 points. And essentially Photoshop is working out the math behind everything, and then I can just point and draw and then it creates another wall. So the problem here is apparently that it's not correct what I did. So this is why things start to turn red. Yeah, I moved this around a lot. The cool thing about this is what I meant when I said I will try to repurpose this, is that I will just take a screenshot then of this and have my vanishing point set up. And again, I try to get here the ceiling correct. And that's the issue here. Because for some reason I cannot get the ceiling from this wall here that I painted in, which is usually it works. So create a plane. It should be something like this here for the ceiling, right? So if I have here the ceiling and then I pull it down, I should have the wall. Yeah, this looks a bit better. And if I pull it up here, then I have the floor. So again, this is the vanishing point feature of Photoshop. You cannot really draw much on it. I mean, you can see here that I can draw, but there is not really that much happening. What this is actually intended for is to use using the stamp tool when you have something that is perspectively skewed somewhere. So for example, let's assume I have here this part of the ceiling that I want to stamp here on the wall. And you can see here now it looks correct on the wall and also on the floor when I get it here to work. Like so. So this is the intent of this vanishing point tool. Like I said, I will going to use it differently, which means I will just use it as a reference to be able to let's just hit OK and make this gray as a reference that I can just paste as an image there and have my vanishing points in the scene. Krita, of course, has much better tools for this. So fill layers, solid color, just make it gray. Now, of course, I have set up a path that I do not need for this. You fill layer. Hi, I'm Phil. This is my layer. Let's make it gray. And when I go back here to vanishing point, must be rasterized. Yes, of course. So here again is the grid that I drew, and I will just hit print to take a screenshot of this so that I can paste it on top of my image and use this as my stand-in grid, so to speak. So I have it here. Use my magic wand. And now here on top, let's make this white. And now I have here on top my reference in case I should need it for something. Like, for example, the ceiling lamp that I drew. Where is it? My ceiling lamp. It's here. And I mean, I can have it here at an angle. Let's deactivate here the reference grid. Cancel. And let's call this ref grid. And maybe I save this. Oh, the automated unicorn pooped. And thank you for feeding the automated unicorn Kaiserschmarrn. That's so nice. Right here. So for my grid, the question is, do I want this light to be at an angle or skewed, or should it be perfectly rectilinear to the screen, to the ceiling, not the screen. I mean, you know what? I just come to think maybe I could try to work with Photoshop 3D Space for this as a reference, because that's something that I haven't tried in a while. And you know what? Let's try it. Let's try to see if I get this done. So yes, Photoshop has a 3D Space. The question is, does it still have it? Because at some point I think they've taken it out. So View, Window, Workspace. Yeah, they've taken it out. There used to be in Photoshop a full 3D able space where you could place objects in 3D and have them rendered by Photoshop. And yeah, Android JK said they removed 3D in 2025, so it hasn't been long. I mean, it was usually atrocious to use, and I rarely used it, but sometimes it was nice because, again, if you wanted something in Photoshop in a 3D space, you could use it for this. And yeah. Andrew says, my story artists at work are pissed about. Yeah, right, because it's just you want to have a square somewhere and have it in perspective just to block something out, and now you have to go the route to, I don't know, Blender, or in my case Maya. Krita, does Krita have a 3D space? I mean, Krita has some excellent where is Krita? In my oh, there it is. It has some excellent tools for vanishing points, where you can say, yeah, I want like a 2 vanishing points or 3 vanishing points. But indeed, yes, this is. Let's have a look at Krita and see what we can find there in terms of this. So Krita has, as I recall it, it's called Dockers for certain things. And there was a Docker for helpers, or what was it called? Grids and guides, there we go. And see, this is how you can set up vanishing points in Krita. Do you want it skewed slightly? And there you have, you can even align them to what you already have, and use this as reference when you draw something, maybe a line or an ellipse or something. So this is super cool and super helpful. But where is here my guide? So the guide's lines dashed. How did I get to the tool options? I forget with Krita. Tool options, there we go. So there 2-point perspective, and there we have concentric ellipse and perspective ellipse, and also vanishing point. The only thing here is that I don't think that it has a real 3D space where I can plop 3D objects in it, like cubes or something. But again, it's much more helpful than whatever Photoshop has. Right. So let's do it the old-fashioned way. Let's do it the old-fashioned way and just count lines. So let's say I want to have here this light source here midway suspended. So on top of this stool, so I look, okay, it's between this line and that line. So I just follow the lines here and say, okay, maybe at this height here. It should be at this intersection, and that it's more obvious what I'm doing. I will be drawing with bright red pixels, 2 points, yeah. So this is essentially the wedge that I'll be looking at, where to place this hanging suspended light source there. It should be, I would say, there on top of the stool. So I make here connections to these intersection points, and it should be around, let's say, this height here. And of course, you can see here I do not have floating lines there. So again, in this case, I have to make a guess where this ends up. But I mean, essentially, I could just say, okay, it should be 80% up for however long this line is. And this again is why I detest mathematics, because I do not like it. So for example, this line here has a height of 414 pixels. You can see this if I zoom in, and there you can see it shows me the size of my rectangle. So when I do this, it's 415 pixels, and I want to say, okay, it's here at 300 pixels. So here we go. 414 divided by 300 pixels, so the aspect ratio is 1.38. So this line here is 661 pixels. So 661 pixels divided by, what was it? 1.38, so we have 478 pixels. 478, there we go, pixels. So I should be very careful. There we go. So this is the height on where to draw. See why I hate this? Cool work, congrats, says Venmo V. Thank you so much for trying to figure this out. It looks kind of wrong. I mean, this is of course slightly at an angle and not like this, of course. So it should be something like so. Actually, I should be doing the same thing on the other part. But again, this is, again, I don't want to be overly correct here or overly geometric. All I want is just to have something that I can work with. Christy says, me being a viewer that loves math when a streamer detests mathematics. It's on one hand, I'm sorry. And what I do not like is, I mean, I do not like that I have such a hard time trying to understand it, because I had such a bad teacher in my formative years. It was, I mean, I still remember to this day that he called me in front of class that I'm as dumb as the night is dark, and the night is very dark, he added. And yeah, he before he retired, he gave me an F so that I had to learn all through summer just to make this final exam. And when I had flunked this exam, I would had to repeat the entire class. And this was his parting gift to me. And yeah, it was entirely, it wasted my summer. And so this is why I detest mathematics, because I have such a bad experience with it. But I'm sorry, Cursibo, it's not mathematics, it's me who's having the problem with it. And in this case, it's not even that much hard mathematics. It's just geometry. Right. So my reference grid is this one, and the light should be suspended here. So essentially I could draw it. Let's use a different color for the light. Where it's, when it's suspended, it should be, I don't know, something like this. The horizontal line definitely does not, right? This one here, yeah, because this one is at an angle, this one is at an angle, so the center should be here, so this one should actually be at a downwards angle, right? I think that's the issue that we're having here. Because this should be the horizon, at least in Unity, unless you mess around with the camera, it should be level. And so this is there, and halfway between would be something like this, right? Again, I'm just... Do you want to turn on sticky keys? No, thank you. Just because I use Control... I pressed Shift 5 times. No. Just bad at this. Yeah, this looks a bit better, right? So then let's also shift this slightly. Yeah, thank you for pointing this out. Otherwise, I would have continued and wouldn't really have known what problem I encountered there. So this line here should actually be a continuation of that line. And if it's suspended, the suspension should be here on this point from which it's maybe hanging. Okay, let's deactivate this and see if this looks halfway plausible. And I would say yes, surprisingly, it does. But it was a lot of work just getting to a point where I say, I think this looks right. The problem now is, of course, if I want to move it, I mean, I can move it slightly. Of course, the perspective would be wrong then. But if it's here or there, I mean, since it's going to be painted on, it's not that big of an issue. But of course, this is not something where you can say this is production ready or so. Again, this is going to be a concept. So just that you, as a developer, know what the intention is of things that are going on. So here I have my imported light source of this, and of course this won't work here. So instead of trying to stretch it correctly, I will stretch it in 2 stages. So first I just look at the fluorescence, just at the tubes. Ah, screw this. No, you know what? Instead of doing this, I just take here the terminator, if that's what you call it. It's just this part here. It serves as the end part. I invert it so that you can see it and place it here. That's much easier. And let's make this a bit translucent or transparent. And I will just paint on in white the fluorescent tubes like so. No, I intentionally hit the... Oh, I clicked yes, didn't I? I clicked yes. How can I get rid of sticky keys? Windows security. I hate this so much. Let me figure this out. Deactivate sticky keys, Windows. Deactivate sticky keys, Windows 11. Windows I to open it. Yes, I have it on my other screen. Accessibility, yes. Make sure sticky keys is set to off. Where is sticky keys? Keyboard, sticky keys. Oh, it's off anyway. So disable this keyboard shortcut. Where? Sticky keys is off. Yes, it is. Notification preferences. Notify me when I turn on. Play a sound when I turn on sticky keys. I cannot deactivate this. Or is sticky keys on? I cannot click anything there in the accessibility panel. Oh, it just took its sweet time. That's all. Beautiful. Okay. Now we have it. Sticky keys, the eternal Windows curse. Windows has become such a minefield, and when I said I would be streaming today, Connie already joked that I would be ranting like an old man over how bad Adobe is and how horrible Windows and Microsoft is, and here we are following this exact pattern. Yeah, probably shouldn't do this freehand, especially when I'm not having the right brush set for this anyway. So the thing was here, this suspension, just so that we can see the suspension. I mean, for now I just make it here in almost black, and it's very dark. So the black, of course, in this case, since it's just a gray and everything else is of a blue shade, this really sticks out. I mean, then of course we could have the suspension be just something like this, but I think for now I will just leave it as it is. Right, side quest done. Click the arrow next to the toggle. Yeah, that's what I tried, and then it just didn't work. It actually worked to turn it off after all these years. Yeah, let's see for how long it's off. Because as with many things, it's, yeah, with the next update, when it says, please wait, Windows is setting up your device. You can, it feels like I'm looking at this little spinner while it's undoing everything that I did to make it workable for me. Right. So I make this black for now, so that we can see it in the end. Maybe I give it a little highlight or something, because it should act as a concept. I mean, right now it still sticks out a little bit as artificial, but overall I think I kinda like it. So I said fog and haze and dust, that sort of thing, when you're working inside of buildings, usually you probably should not use it unless you want to have it stuffy. But of course it helps when you want to give light sources an atmosphere, a certain depth, or a certain body even. So for this I will again assume that we have a slight glow as a post effect over everything. And so I just paint here very cheaply over like this, and then use Gaussian blur. With a pretty big radius, and suddenly it looks like it's very intense and blue and lighting down. Then of course, as I said, if you want to give it a body, this usually means to make it some sort of a volume light, which also helps, of course, if there is some fog involved. So if I turn this off, so here we have our blue. So when I'm painting in lights, usually set the blending mode to add, because the lights gets added on top of what is already there. And so we have here this slightly, yeah, volume light that maybe I can make even broader, because I'm thinking how this is going to be implemented in the engine. And since there is not a lot of geometry in this scene, or not many light sources, maybe it's possible that we have the computational budget to have something as a volume light there. I play around here with the saturation of the light source, because again, everything here is blue, but maybe I have it set at an incorrect value. I mean, here when I go into this purple thing, suddenly we have this black light appeal, which is also kind of cool. But of course, I don't think this is what is intended for this, so I keep it as it is right now. So one thing that let's make this a bit brighter again so that I can see what I'm working on. One thing that I should be doing perhaps is paint in shadows. So just as a hint that, yeah, this light should have a shadow caster, or should be a shadow caster. So, and for this, especially here with this little stool, it's very obvious. It looks like it's floating. it's obvious that there is no shadow being cast. So for this, again, yeah, let's make it a dark grayish blue like this. And I set the layer to multiply and my opacity to let's say 78%. So when I'm drawing here, it's already a bit too strong. When I'm drawing here and not raising my stylus, it's all a uniform shadow, right? A uniform shape. When I raise my stylus and start painting again, I add to it, but it never gets dark. It is because I switched off that the stylus here changes with the pressure, the opacity. And with that, I can get things kind of soft here at the end, at the outskirts here. And only when I lift up my pen and I'm having troubles with words. When I lift up my pen and apply it again onto my drawing surface, only then it gets added to what is there. So, and now I'm trying to make it here, the edges a bit softer there with the smudge tool. It's the good old finger tool, as we called it. Just to hint at, yeah, there is a shadow being cast from this thing on top. With oblong shadow casters, I always am not sure, should the shadow look like this or should it instead look more like this? And I think, yeah, I usually have to go to Maya and figure it out. Because, of course, you have more light coming in from the sides than, or let me paint it in. So you have more light coming in from this side than from the other axis, not side. So more from the X side than from the Y axis. And of course, I painted here over the foreground, so I probably need to take this out. Where is my eraser? Soft 5 pixels. Not very thorough, apparently. Yep, this was wrong. There we go. So that it has a bit more of a appeal that says there is a shadow there. And the same goes, of course, for the light source on top, because this is apparently the most important thing. This is why it was in the original. Let's have a look again at how it looked before our changes. This, or let's make it a bit brighter, it already had this spot. So I assume it's super important what will be on this tray in the end. So let's also emphasize this. Highlight. And again, for this, I draw something that is very bright and then just adjust the shape. So normal, add, color burn. Yeah, I painted with way too much opacity on top. Again, I want to mimic, okay, this is where the light source is hitting this tray. Let's do this again with a finer brush. So this should actually be the brightest part, except for the light source itself, because it's the closest to the light source and it is where the player needs to be looking. Yeah, right now I'm drawing this just in white as additive, but because I used the color balance there for the bounce light to be blue, this reads like a blue light. I mean, this is exactly what we want, but the light source itself is just a plain white. And to give it the appearance that it is blue, I made everything blue. So if I take this out, it still reads like a blue light because I drew the glow effect and the volume shadow. So now it is a white light, and this is all that it takes to make something, some sort of a light source, feel like it has a certain color. Is just paint the effects of that color. This of course also means that I maybe can emphasize here the spot around it. This part here. I mean, maybe it would help if the floor has some sort of bump mapping or normal mapping. But overall, I can't. Thank you, Cursey-Boo. Cheers. But overall, I kind of think we are pretty close to how I think this scene should feel. Right, so whatever is going to be on this should now be somewhat emphasized through the light sources that we have here. So to make here this, I mean, right now we can add some more flourishes, as I like to call them, because right now, I mean, I would say that the painting is relatively finished. I would just clean it up here and put this into a group called helpers. Helpers. This is light atmospherics. Always clean up. Light atmospherics. Always clean up your files, I meant to say. So, and the thing, of course, that falls a bit out here is this thing. I say things. So the case of this light here, especially when I make it a bit brighter, you can see it's of a different color than everything else because my color balance here happens right on the background and everything just adds on top of it. So that, I mean, I have now two options that I can just take here the light and you know what, let's do this. I just take the light and copy the color balance effect, but restrict it to just group of this light. So now it's double, but now it's here in the light, because now here I can tweak it much easier. And I mean, it's set here to normal, right? And let's go with hue saturation and just decrease the saturation a bit. That again, it feels more like it's part of the rest of the scene here. So if I take down my working light, it looks more integrated. But of course, now it has here this bright spot underneath, and again, it should cast shadows there on top as well. So it only the bounced light is visible there on top. So I probably need to draw some more shadows there in my darken layer as well. Let's quickly do this. Opacity 5. Yeah, that should be fine. Again, I have here on top of everything my curves that I adjust on the fly, just so that I can make things darker and brighter, so just to see what I'm working on. And it always helps. I mean, this is what 3D animation has taught me, and photography. It always helps to visualize how the light bounces around. For example, we have two light sources in this scene. The one here we see, that is the practical light here on top. Let's make this a bit darker. So it bounces in a blue, it has a blue light, and everything else is relatively colorless. So it means the floor reflects the light of the color and it bounces back up. So this is why there is relatively soft shadows. And the other light source here probably is in a similar light that comes from outside here. Maybe we even have a light source in our back, because this wall here, the right wall on the side, I haven't given much attention. But I mean, I can darken it a bit to guide our players, and I think this is probably also what in the game makes sense. So that you step out from a dark room, you see something blue at the end of the hallway, and it is this room. So of course you're like a moth and are drawn towards the light. This is relatively old-fashioned. A good old-fashioned player guidance is just put a light where it's important for players to go. There we go. Right, so the flourishes that I mentioned that we can make, set to make this more interesting. Flourishes, I like to say, is either add some more decals somewhere or just paint in more details. In my example, I like it to have finer shadows show up where they make sense, and also highlights, especially specular highlights. So for example, one thing here is, oh, that's much too dark. One thing would be to draw some more shadows where they would make sense, especially in parts where we have contacts. For example, the contact shadow here of the leg stool legs. Same thing here. Because again, it gives it just this additional feel of there is an actual light source bouncing around. And again, it helps if you just think to yourself, okay, where is the light coming from and where is it not reaching? If you think of yourself, yes, I am the light source. In Maya, and I think also in Blender and other software, you have this option to look through a light, to be wherever you look, you are the light source. And this helps tremendously in seeing, okay, it's essentially a light source, especially if it's just a spotlight. It's just like a camera that's pointing somewhere. And whatever the camera sees has no shadows. And when something is occluded, of course, it's in the shade. And once you start thinking like a light source is a camera, and you put yourself into the the shoes of the light source, so to speak, it helps much figuring out where light is coming from and what is, in the shades, like I said. So those are stacked boxes. This looks like there is some stack of papers behind it, but the boxes are already shading the paper from the light source, so it should be even a bit darker there. So if I zoom out and switch here my flourishes on and off, you see their contribution to the entire image is relatively small. I mean, I'm not finished at this point, but already it feels a bit more, that it has more detail to it. So as for this incubator or whatever it is, I have no idea how to light it or shade it, because it feels like it has just transparent sides, and if you have no ray tracing or other means of having light physically or plausibly interact with these things, there is not much that I can do apart from just make one side a bit darker than the other. So essentially just treat it as a solid object, but that just casts not as dark shadows. Good night, says Tutvari, and I also say thank you for sticking with me again, and have a wonderful week, and hopefully I see you next week, and yeah, take care. And also, of course, thank you for dropping by. Right, maybe that's a bit too dark up here. Of course, the question is, I mean, right now this is just art for the art's sake, because these kinds of contact shadows are relatively resource intense to get right in Unity. I mean, I think we all know how hard it is to have very defined hard light sources or hard shadows where we actually need them. Because again, this means you have to have a big budget for your shadow maps. So I don't think that this is going to happen, but I just want to give my client here the options, and essentially through the medium of art, tell them, hey, wouldn't it be neat if it could look like this? And if the answer is yes, then I say, but I don't know how to make this happen in your specific case, so yeah, we have to figure something out there. So yeah, right, one thing that I just saw here is that the underside there of the shelves is pretty much as bright as the top side here. So where does the light of on the underside of this shelf come from? Where does the top light come from? The top light comes from this light source here, and in part bounced from the top. But the light source here only comes bounced from the bottom. So essentially this means the bottom side of the shelves should probably be slightly darker than the top sides. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, and you go, yeah, of course it's darker, but like I said, since when you need to consider that light bounces around, it's not always the case. Because, for example, if we have a very strong sunlight coming in here and bouncing up, and everything else here is in the shade, then probably it would be the underside of the shelves would actually be brighter than the top side. So this is, again, just think about where light is coming from and what's in the shade, and that already helps. So those are my shadow flourishes. Oh, yeah, good old Phil. I've drawn them on too many layers, but you get the picture, right? So the other thing, of course, here is highlights or specular highlights. And specular highlights is when a light source is directly reflected. Usually this means it has the color of the light source, unless it's of a metal. For example, if you have something like copper or gold, then it reflects in a different color. But if you have plastics or something, the light source, the light that hits it, the thing, is the same as that comes out. And in contrast to this, we have diffuse reflections. This is pretty much anything else. When you have something that is not a specular highlight, but more of what the light reflects. It's actually, I just realized it's really hard to tell what a diffuse highlight is, but essentially it's just the bright part that you see of something. It's in my case here, this is a diffuse highlight from this light source. But if I have here the glass, and you see here that it reflects the light much sharper, those are specular highlights, so to speak. It's just the roughness of the material. Right, so what is not rough, but instead relatively smooth? And of course we have here the tray, which I already have painted here with those white streaks here. Let's give them some more. Again, we have only one light source, direct light source, that's being reflected, and that is the one here from on top that we just painted in. So yeah, the stool itself is probably not very shiny, so I just leave it as it is. So where else can this be reflected? I mean, maybe we have here some slight reflections on these parts here, but I mean, I'm cheating just to give it a bit more character there. But of course, this, I mean, the light source to have reflections like these here, the light source should be something like here, that it's being reflected on there. But again, this is creative liberty, where I say to make it easier to discern that those are different kinds of shelves, I just paint in some highlights there, or specular highlights. And again, when I have here my 1 pixel sized brush and draw them like this, it's not going to look very good. So I can change it here with my brush size, which is a bit better, but usually for these kinds of highlights, unless it's like on a steel cylinder or something, I usually have something like my fills splatter or my fills salt. Essentially, this is just random dots. You can see them here, how it looks. And with this salt, this feels like, okay, the surface is shiny, but it's relatively rough. And getting notifications that someone else went just live. So, and for these specular highlights, I mean, this is a bit small. I draw them like so, but then I use a layer mask, and in the layer mask, I use my 1 point pixel, 1 pixel hardness 100%. And so when I paint it like this, I'm just revealing here this salt pattern underneath. And from this, suddenly I have something that feels like a specular highlight. Yeah, I realize now that I'm probably getting very exhausted because I'm really grasping at words right now. So I don't know for how much longer I'll be streaming today, because the week really is taking its toll. But yeah, I will just try to keep working on this a little bit longer. Right, so but for this trick to work, everything needs to have this saltiness, so to speak. And for now, to save me some work before I realized this little trick, I just painted pretty much the entire thing. Where is it? I can't even paint it here. Painted the entire layer like this with my salt, and then only where I needed the highlights I revealed them. But there is an easier way of doing things, but just use noise. Just use noise. So for this I make the entire layer is a medium gray. It looks like very bright now because I've here my curves on top of everything. But believe me, this is exactly the medium gray. And on this I say noise, add noise. Yeah, I did this before, just good old Gaussian noise. And then slightly blur it, so filter, blur, and blur. And again, now when I'm... Oh, I drew on the wrong layer again. Now when I draw it here, let's switch on my work light. And now I can, wherever I draw with my 1 pixel sized brush, I said 1 pixel sized brush, I get these kinds of slightly rough specular highlights. Something like so. This is a huge eraser that I have, so to have this slightly softer fall off. Maybe it even gets reflected here somewhat on this pipe, or it's not. Oh, it's not even a pipe. This is this is like a it's not a cylinder, it's like an extruded rectangle there. So yeah, I'm undoing this now. I just wanted to trace what I saw. And YNOC is here, finally able to catch a stream live again. Thank you so much for dropping YNOC. Yeah, what's the art for? Let me catch you up. So I'm a visual consultant for an upcoming game of an indie developer, and they booked me and my services as for concept, for mood, and yeah, visual things to make things have more character and a certain mood and feeling. So and in this case it's some sort of a back room of a laboratory, so it should be a little bit mysterious, but also guide the player through a couple of rooms. So this is, let me show you how it looks. Oh, I already have it. How it looked before. So this is the screenshot that I got from the developer. Essentially saying, hey, what can we do to make this feel more interesting? And so this is currently what I came up with during the stream. This is, again, I'm just doing paint overs, and the idea is to make them nice and appealing, but also possible with what's possible in the engine. So it already should look like what ideally comes out without introducing things like I don't know, realistic reflections somewhere, because again, this is probably not within your budget in terms of computation as well as plugins and so on. So this is why I try to make the most of the things that we already, or in this case, the dev already has. For example, here, this suspended fluorescent light I took from another screenshot that I have painted over previously. This is not the paint over, but in this case, I know, okay, so this asset already exists in the game, so I can use it here just to get my point across. Right, that's awesome. It's looking really good. Thank you so much. Yeah, again, I'm having a lot of fun with doing paint overs, because my work as a colorist essentially means taking things that already are done and looking kind of nice, and just to do the fairy dust on top of everything. So yeah, and for now, this was my idea was to give it this blue and mysterious lighting from this one light here on top. Maybe here these atmospherics, now that I come to look at, I mean, it kind of works. Let's see here, add. It kind of works actually when I'm a little bit darker. Again, usually when I'm working, I have here my work light on. But I have to make sure that I'm not going too bright overall, because especially when you play something in full screen and it needs to be moody, I tend to go a bit too bright. In the case of the stream here is because I have here my ring light that's constantly having the glare of the light in the corner of my eye. So yeah, again, maybe this should be roughly the feeling of the scene, the mood that I want to go for. So yeah, my helpers are here. Yes, don't need them anymore. This is my work light, and this is the gray that I also don't need. So okay, those are just my adjustments from today. That's kind of interesting when I just have it here. So before and after, I'm kind of happy with how it looks. So one thing that I realized, as before I said, this is no pipe. That's not a pipe. So I need to account for this. So the underside, of course, is metal and catches the light here much more strongly than the side. So underside, yes. Side, not so much. So for this, I need to make this a bit brighter. I have my highlights in this layer, or my lighten in this layer. So I just lighten it up as well. This bar annoys me to no end. Thank you, Photoshop. So, soft brush, big size, and there. And that's all I think it needs to read, as yes, this is at an angle right now. You should be happy, says a Ghoul Prince. Looks so good. Shadows really make it pop. Thank you so much. Yeah, in that case, I probably should stop fiddling around. But like I said, I love me some colored light sources. I'm a big sucker for colored light sources, and if there aren't any, I try to shoehorn them in. So maybe a bit too much. So the next thing is, of course, tweakability, which means ideally we should have everything on its own little layer here, in case the client says, yeah, this is too strong, or can we try a different light color, that sort of thing. So one thing for atmospherics that I just realized is, again, we have some dust modes that we can place. And for dust modes, as always, I have here my brushes that I made over the years, and here under my scatters, we've just used it. Here is my salt. They have different ways of salt. For example, here the scattered salt. Let's make this a bit more visible. Works like this. And for dust modes, this is kind of great. So just make it a bit bigger, and the opacity, turn it way down, and also make it not bright white, but just this medium gray. So usually these kinds of dust modes or things that float in the air, of course you only see it when it catches some light. So this is why around light sources it should be a bit more prominent, and you don't really see it anywhere else. It's a bit like with snow. When you watch snow at night and you watch it against the sky, you don't really see it. Actually, snowflakes are darker than the sky, which is kind of weird, but you only see it around light sources. So yeah, maybe I'm a bit too much here. And now this is of course way too much, and so I'm here with my eraser, and wow, not going over it that strongly, but I'm using here the pressure of my stylus as opacity, so that I can, the harder I press down, the more I delete of this, so that you can just, again, you just feel it a little, that there's something in the air. Again, that gives it some sort of atmosphere. Wino C says, is there any chance we can see the other screenshots you've worked on? Of course. Of course. Thank you for asking. I showed this when I started the stream, so for anyone who has already seen them, please avert your eyes now. Yeah, this is the same room, just a different angle. You can see here, so yes, those are stacks of boxes that I identified as such. First, let's save this. And yes, let's start here with, or right, we still have the videos, of course. So let's start here. I mean, the game starts in an office. It's, as a Ghoul Prince said, an anomaly hunting game. And yeah, the office should look a bit more moody and more designed. And so this is why I brought in this carpeting and just played around a bit with light sources, where, because this here, this exit sign, this is the tunnel or the little hallway that you always enter when you want to start a different loop. So this also needs to be super symmetrical, that it's seamless. And so yeah, this was the first thing. The next thing was also in the same office, the executive office, so that it looks more, well, more executive. So for this I changed the ceiling, the back wall, added some more spots, and there we go. And I think also the carpet, as soon as you have some kind of this Oriental or Persian rugs there, suddenly it already feels a bit more more executive. Then of course there is a weird place in the game that is the overwork hell, and the developer already liked this, but I thought maybe I can tease out a bit more, because we were having issues with player guidance. And as I said, players are like moths. They always follow the light, or mostly follow the light. So we need to work out what's important. I felt that the sky was a bit, I mean, it looked very cool, but of course it's distracting, because you don't really need the sky, for example, and it's much more important what happens elsewhere. And so essentially it was just add a light source on the guy, on your boss, and light source here on the timer and where you have to go. So essentially what you have to look at and where you have to go is coded blue or cool, and everything else that's trying to hurt you is here coded hot, or in this case red. And yes, this is the infected laboratory, which is also part of this. And the developers said they're struggling that it really looks infected or feels infected. And so my ideas essentially were just very minor things that have some sort of fog there, have some dust motes that it feels like there are spores in the air, and use decals that make it look like really dirty, that this, whatever this is oozing things into the environment. And again, just with these little tweaks, it already helps. And again, this is not rocket science, and the dev, I'm sure, would have come up with it themselves. It's just having an outsider, a different person look at it and spot something immediately that you think like, oh yeah, I should have noticed this, or yeah, that's a great idea. So yeah, the carpet, yeah. And I think I've made some others as well, but I do not have any videos for those. Yeah, for example, this was my first concept for this room. When I got the room, it looked even more sparse. Screenshot sources. So yeah, so this was the first incarnation of the room that we painted today. So this was when we said, okay, it needs to have a purpose, so it's going to be some sort of a back room or storage room. And yeah, you can see there is a difference there. Of course, a lot helps here with the air vents and the brick wall. Suddenly, even this change already gave it a bit more character. So yeah, and this incubator, or what it is, I said maybe we can have some sort of light source. So this was my attempt here, just doing it in Resolve, my color grading software, and fake there this little volume light. But you can see already I was going for this green bluish touch. So right now it's very monochrome, which can be good or bad. The thing is, it's good because now it feels very harmonious, and bad in a sense that, well, it feels like it's kind of bland or something. So it feels like someone has just applied, hey, make everything blue on top of it. And usually to counter this, whenever possible, I try to work in a counterbalance in terms of a different light source. I mean, here in this case, I don't think that I can shoehorn one in, but usually when something is overly blue, I like to have some sort of warm light source somewhere in the shadows, somewhere else. For example, just to give you an idea of what this could look like, I always like to work with opposing colors on the color wheel, which makes things already feel like very balanced and soothing. And for example, if I would try to do this, maybe I could say we come from a part in the level that has a warm light source. So maybe we have a warm light source behind us and we're stepping into this dark room. So for this, maybe I want it to even be darker when we enter it, so that I really have here, that I make there this little pool of light. And darken everything before. And then when I say we step out from something that is already a bit warmer, this means that let's say add, that some of the light from the room that we were in maybe spills out a little into this room. But now, of course, I'm in a place where I don't know if this is right or not, or what the room before was, so to speak. Let's say not linear dodge. What was it? screen add. Yeah, of course, this is not client ready or anything. Just to give you an idea how this could theoretically work or look like. It's just this little glow of the room that is behind you. Usually I like it when there's something inside the scene that I can work with or give a certain color. For example, if there would be some sort of I don't know, LED light on this incubator here, or even, I don't know, even a television screen or something. Again, just something to balance this blueness entirely. Because this also is helpful when you, again, want to guide your player. For example, let's say there is something here in this box, and I give it here this yellow glow here. Doesn't have to be much. Let's make it a bit brighter. Yeah, that's already too saturated. I've drawn here. But if you look at this, even from a small perspective, suddenly your eye gets drawn to whatever here is glowing inside these boxes. If it's gone, it's not important. You're not interested in whatever is going on here or there. You look at whatever is on this tray. But as soon as we have something, this little speck of opposing color, suddenly it becomes interesting, right? So, and yeah, whenever I can, I like to work with this. Set the stool on fire, says Frank. I mean, the stool right now is already emphasized, but we could. I mean, theoretically, what would happen if the stool were on fire? I mean, we can try this. Okay, so if the stool were on fire, this would mean it acts as a different light source, or as a new light source itself. So if I just crudely draw here some fire effects on top of it. So the fire, I would say, starts with yellow and then goes into slight reddishness there. This already looks like it's leaning towards purple. So should the stool be on fire? Again, it's a light source, and fire is pretty bright as a light source. So this would mean we have another bounce light that is casting shadows everywhere. But very soft shadows. But again, that was wrong. Let's say here, add. So for fire to work, I would make everything else darker, so that the fire itself is really emphasized or stronger. Say something like this. Again, add. Yeah, I mean, with fire, I can paint fire all day and never be satisfied. And for that, it means softness there, opacity down, size up. That the entire room here is lit from this thing here, and also on top the fire is illuminating the room. So this would be my starting point for the fire effect. Make everything a bit blurry and then say add. Something like this, of course, with more definition there in the ceiling, for example. And then fire also means everything is suddenly starting to get very smoky and hazy. So oh, I'm having the wrong brush. Is this the right one that I wanted? No, it's not. Anyway, I think you get my point. So, better. And thank you for deleting whatever was being posted there. Thank you, Frank, for always looking out. The main thing about a proper fire is that it's warm light. Exactly. That if you have a fire that is blue, like a gas flame or something, or sometimes even green, as you see with comic book villains or something, it always feels off or very threatening. But yes, fire is always warm, and not a spotlight always has very soft shadows. In other words, setting something on fire adds endless possibilities. Yes, indeed, you can quote me on that, or in this case, you can quote Frank on that. Right. So yes, essentially this, again, my overpainting means I could do without these kinds of flourishes, but again, I always look here at the small thing in the bottom and say, okay, can I still make out what is important here? And I think I can. Soft moving shadows even for extra atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, to fake or simulate a fire in Unity, I think what I would suggest is having like 3 or 4 point lights that have this sinusoidal, is this a word? So where they move in sinus direction, they just, when they are on top, they just jump back, and it's like 3 or 4 interwoven, and if they all cast shadows, their shadow quality can be very, very low. It's really just something is moving, and I've seen this somewhere, and it looked very, very good, and again, it was also in terms of performance kinda okay-ish. But again, I mean, you have suddenly 4 dynamic lights, so depending on, of course, where in your scene you want to use this. If it's a big open world with hundreds of lights already, and yeah, probably then it's not going to help a lot when you add these kinds of effects. But again, if it's just somewhere in a room like this, then of course it might work and add stuff. Could do that with a mixture of baked lights too. Yeah, that's the other thing, of course. You don't need them to be dynamic. Exactly, yeah. One thing that I've saw, was this with Unity or was this in Unreal? I just saw it, I think, on Twitter. It's been a while. I think it was just moving light probes around where shadows should change, or lighting situation should change. And I also thought, yeah, that's kind of cool, where you just move, yeah, the lighting probes at a certain point, they just fluctuated for fire effects. Yeah, I kind of like this. Again, it depends where this light source is, if we can get it this dark in the end. But I think the most important part is just that it's not this uniformly very softly lit, but that it has some sort of this little island of light, and then there is maybe the next island around the corner. So this is why you want to look at this as a play, and then you also want to keep going to the next room. Yeah, and with that, I think I'm done with it. I do not want to add more things, otherwise I might end up with just painting in things that are either impossible or not really important. But yes, doing a bit of Googling, and Unity does support moving probes around. Oh cool, then probably it was what I saw with Unity. But yeah, maybe, I don't know what your purpose is or so, but I think especially with fire and also with water effects, you can get pretty creative. And in the end, you can still go for the brute force variant and just, yeah, do path tracing for everything and just wait for technology to catch up. Kersey says, congrats on finishing, here's a prize. Oh, there's a prize? Unicorn. Thank you, Kersey. I already had my hand on my juice. Wonderful. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here and being interested in this sort of concept dev, game dev thing, because as you see, on one hand it can be a bit cumbersome when you need to construct where in 3D space things are. I mean, it would have helped if I had the Unity project myself and then could just fuss around with it, but of course this also means that I need to have certain plugins or even bought assets to open it on my account, and yeah, usually that's not worth the hassle. And in the end, to get an idea across, if it's halfway in perspective and looks halfway okay-ish, then it also works. And again, this only serves to as a concept to see, okay, I like where this is going, or I do not like where this is going, or that we, as a developer, that you just have a basis to work off, where you say, I like this part, but I don't like that part, or can we move the light around? And suddenly you have, hopefully, concept art just gives you additional ideas, and that's all the purpose it is. But again, as an artist, you paint in little highlights, just that it works as a picture, as a painting by itself.